So a hotel, but instead of rooms, time portals. Yeah?
Yeah.
Hello listeners, welcome to a bonus episode where today I'm joined by Will. Hello.
Hello, nice to be here.
So you were last on the podcast for 73 Yards, weren't you?
Yes, one of my favourites from season 1.
Excellent. And today you're here to talk with me about the Christmas special, Joy to the World.
Yeah, which I quite enjoyed. I thought it was really fun and a lovely Christmas romp. I'm not sure you agree with me though. Is that right?
I've talked about this before on the podcast, particularly with Mike from Who Gives a Flux. We've talked a lot about the expectation factor. And I think I'm quite mixed on the episode. Like, bits of it I did like, but I did come away from it feeling overall a little bit disappointed. But I think it's probably a me thing rather than an episode thing. Yeah.
I think that's always going to be difficult with, especially because obviously it was such a big thing, the fact that not only is now Russell, RTD's back, but then Stephen Moffat's doing his first Christmas special for however many years. And there's a lot of Christmas specials of his that I think are, I really love, and I know that people think are classics, like Last Christmas with Peter Capaldi, and then what was the first Matt Smith one called?
Christmas Carol. Yeah,
that was amazing. So I think it's always going to have that expectation as well.
Yeah,
that it's a Stephen Moffat episode, so it's going to be incredible, and I can understand why people would possibly be a bit not quite as satisfied with this one.
I think, that's definitely part of it, because, I love Christmas Carol and some of his other ones as well. But I think for me, I need to try and stop expecting it to be like it was 15 years ago or whatever, because it's never going to be like that again. TV is a different animal now.
Do you think there's anything to do with the fact that taking something like A Christmas Carol, that would have come off the back of having seen Matt Smith's first series, and I'm guessing that your overall opinion of Matt Smith's first series is possibly a little bit more positive than Ncuti's first series, or at least you were in a time where Doctor Who was a lot more. You were much more excited about it back then. So it's possibly just within that it's we've come off a series that was okay, but it wasn't. It didn't blow us all away. Well, at least us two, I think, agreed that it was good, but not amazing.
Yes.
And so, the overall hype is going to be down a little bit.
Yeah. I suppose we'll talk as we go through a little bit about what felt disappointing, but one of the things for me is, like, the title character, Joy, who was hyped up as being the kind of one-off companion for this, and she gets second billing in the credits. But she didn't have that much screen time, at least as herself, not possessed or whatever. And B, she just, like, Nicola Coughlan did a good job, like, in terms of the acting, but she just didn't feel like a real person in the way that, for example, Donna in The Runaway Bride did, or whatever. And I'm not quite sure how that's the case, because they've got the same amount of time to tell the story. It's perfectly possible to make us care about a character in that time. But I didn't honestly really care about Joy very much by the end of the episode. Well, no, that makes me sound harsh, because I did, obviously, like, and I loved her whole rant about the COVID situation and the Tories and the parties.
But I feel like, if comparing it to Runaway Bride, I feel like the COVID situation, and that explained why she was alone, why she kept herself alone on Christmas, was if that was part of the Runaway Bride or Donna's storyline, I feel like that would have been quite a central part, as opposed to something that came to light quite late in the episode.
Yes,
it would have been something we possibly would have gathered. We would have had clues to it a lot earlier on. And I think you've said this quite a lot with watching, especially now that you're on Matt's first series with Ben, the difference between RTD's characterization of approach and Moffat's, and RTD's, certainly RTD1, very focused on real people and their real lives, and this fantastical character coming along and changing all of it. But they're still grounded in very everyday situations, you know. Whereas, and obviously, as we'll speak about, I'm sure, the fate of Joy's character as well is yet another Moffat character who sort of dies, but then doesn't in a cosmic sort of vague way.
100%.
So, yeah, and I think her screen time as well, I was thinking that is that, yeah, she's been hyped up as this, Nicola Coughlan, who's now, you know, a huge star thanks to Bridgerton and Derry Girls and stuff. And, yeah, she's now going to be part of the Christmas special. They were hyping this up back, I think, basically as soon as season 1 finished. And, yeah, she was not, you know, even taking into account the time where she was possessed by the suitcase, she wasn't in it that much. That is quite funny.
I want to also mention, like, even her costume, it looked like a costume. It looked like someone had designed it to be, this is what Joy is going to wear. It didn't look like something a real person would wear. Like, that sounds silly, but you know what I mean? Like, take Rose and Martha and Donna, and they're just dressed in a very believable way. And I don't know.
It looked like something that someone would wear if they were planning to attend some sort of fancy party or some sort of gathering or Christmas party or something.
Yeah.
But to dress up like that, knowing that you're purposefully isolating yourself, it's a lovely costume or outfit, but it is at odds with her storyline. But then again, you could say that because a lot of it comes down to the fact that she hides all this pain through her smile and her bubbliness.
So she's
maybe
dressing
that's part
up for
of it.
Yeah.
I'm sure there's plenty of people. I've encountered people in life where they're sort of very bubbly and cheery and sort of dress very sort of, as I'm sure if Ben were on this episode, a little bit twee, you know, and they do that partly, it seems, because it's sort of maybe to hide something.
Yeah.
But I do know what you mean.
I can understand that.
Yeah,
I don't know. I haven't really thought these points through. It's just sort of things that occurred to me in the episode, and that was one of them. Watching it for the second time today, I was like, it just they don't look like real clothes that she's had in her wardrobe at home. They look like they've been picked out specially. But anyway, I want to try and not be too negative because I feel like I'm going to be.
Am I going to have to assume
way.
your role where I'm sort of having to rein your negativity in like you would do for Ben?
Yes, yeah. I could just go full out Ben and be like, what a pile of shit. But yeah.
So what was something that what was your favourite thing about this episode then?
Oh, my God, you really are. You're doing the say something nice.
Yeah.
My favourite thing is the same as a lot of people, actually, which is Anita and the section of him staying in the hotel for a year and working with her and getting to know her. That was really nice. Great sort of character development for Nshuti's doctor and a real lovely bond there between the two of them. And it's a shame that we're probably never going to see her again.
Well, you say that, but I do wonder if, you know, because so many people have taken a shine to her, whether that, you know, they'll, I don't know, do something about that. But she did embody what you've been saying that Joy seemed to lack, in that she was very much a normal person who then her life got changed because the doctor swept in and made it all fantastical. I mean, I've got on my notes here one of the things like the fact that he was explaining the weeping angels whilst eating dinner, and you know, she just wasn't believing any of it. I mean, what I found quite funny is that she did seem unfazed by everything.
Yes, you
know, she's just sorting out the towels whilst there's a Silurian and a portal to the future in the hotel, and she was a brilliant character. Especially, the other thing is that I think the Time Hotel is also an amazing concept and also an amazing opportunity for a lot of story stuff for Doctor Who. And now that she was given a job at the Time Hotel, maybe that's how she can become sort of like a side character, that, you know, a recurring character.
That's true. That's possible.
If the Time Hotel's reintroduced.
Yeah, I agree. The Time Hotel was a fantastic concept. And it makes me think that, I mean, sometimes I think with Stephen Moffat's ideas, they're like, sometimes they're too big for a single episode of Doctor Who. Like this was a great idea, but I feel like it barely scratched the surface in the sort of hour of the special.
And it's so, you know, it was so detailed, like it was so Like, I love the way that the doors were the specific. They were, they made a big point of that in the scene, pointing out how the doors were all made of, like, it was the tent fabric, and it was the the Leaning Tower of Pisa one being slightly on its side, and
that was a great bit as well. Yeah,
and a cave entrance and stuff like that.
Yeah,
and they're not just anonymous doors that lead to, the submarine thing with the wheel lock and things like that. So it does seem like the sort of thing that should definitely get utilised again in the future.
The doors reminded me of Monsters Inc.
Yes, definitely.
And doors are such a good like device anyway, like, because they're that liminal thing of like stepping from one space to another. They're always a bit exciting. There's always something a bit exciting about going through a door.
And talking of Monsters Inc., actually, obviously, as part of the door concept, once the link's broken, it just becomes a door that just leads to nowhere. In both, Monsters Inc., it just leads to the behind the door, but then in this, it leads to like a bricked up wall. And the sort of devastation of once the link's broken, Shooty realising he has to stay there for a year. And and I mean, did you spot, I don't know if you're a Lord of the Rings fan, but did you spot the sort of circular hobbit door, little Easter egg?
Yes. So I'm not a huge Middle Earth fan, but I did spot that, and I was pleased to have spotted that. It was quite cute. I was just thinking it's also a little bit Girl in the Fireplace as well, with the connection being broken and then him having to wait,
That is something I have noticed people mention, is that there's a lot of recycled concepts. I mean, especially with Joy's ending, she sort of becomes cosmic dust floating off into space. At the end of a Christmas episode, it's very Astrid in Voyage of the Damned. So I do see why people would say that. Talking about sort of Easter eggs within the hotel itself, two that I really liked was the first one was, I spotted it the first time I watched it, and I thought that feels like I'm going to have to, when I do my second rewatch, I'm going to have to figure out what that means. And it's the one that had the Julius Caesar door.
Oh yeah.
And it said above it Julius Caesar, and then in Roman numerals 710, and then AUC. And I was a bit confused of what that means. So I looked, I thought, is 710 like the year of him being around? And I think he was assassinated in 44 AD or BC or something. But the AUC actually stands for a Latin phrase that says ab urbe condita, which means since the founding of the city, so since the founding of Rome, so which happened in 753 BCE. So yeah, 44 BCE is 710 AUC, so it's I suppose how that date probably would have been marked, because you can't say before Christ when Christ isn't even born yet. Timey-wimey. But then the other one that I thought was really funny was there's a sort of a clothes shop in the hotel, so
Mr.
you can
Ben's.
buy
I love
so you can
that.
buy your own clothes and blend in, and that's obviously what Mr. Ben did. He went to a shop and would find some sort of, I don't know, Elizabethan outfit or something, and then would go on an adventure in that time. And I thought that was very funny. It was very on the nose, but I liked it. Yeah.
So, can I just ask, does this resonate with you at all, what Stephen Moffat's saying in the episode about, there's always that weird door in a hotel room that's locked? Or is that just...
Yeah.
Is he gaslighting us?
Okay, were you part of the camp of people that didn't understand what that, or didn't make any sense to you?
It feels like it might have a bit of truth about it, but it feels a little bit vague. Like, I know, like... There's cupboards with like cleaning stuff in that they keep locked and stuff, but I don't know, it didn't seem like a strong enough grain of truth.
Because I'm in the group of people that like I did get that, because I do know that in hotel rooms, there is a door that it's always locked because it leads to the room next door.
I see.
So that if you've got like a whole party of people, you can have like a doorway between two rooms that you can go to your friends really easily or whatever, and you have to get it unlocked by request, so that you're not then able to walk in on some random people in the other door. But it's maybe this whole sort of, there's always this this door that's like, you know,
Yeah.
people were like, I've never seen that before, and so therefore felt like they were being gaslit or whatever.
It's
but
funny though.
I did get what he meant.
Yeah,
but,
it's
yeah.
it's another thing that reminds me of the 11th Hour and like the door with the perception filter that you never noticed was there.
Yeah.
It does feel like Moffat's got this like little bag of tricks. Every time he writes an episode, he roots around in it, and sort of the same things keep coming out. He's got like his favourite ideas. There was something else I wrote down that was very him. I'm trying to find it. Oh yeah, the whole thing about my consciousness has been uploaded and is used as an interface to talk to you. Like,
yeah, like the library.
Yeah,
Donna Noble has left the library.
a million other episodes as well. Even in Boom, like his last episode, like with the whole AI thing.
Yeah, I mean, obviously the other thing, Villain God or Villain God, however you want to pronounce it, that's obviously like a Moffat staple now, and was, something he said in Boom and introduced in The Empty Child and stuff. So, it is like a sort of Stephen Moffat bingo episode, isn't it? You know, cross off whichever aspects he is able to include in this one. I mean, some of the more naughty jokes as well. That's quite a Moffat thing. Like when the Silurian's talking to the Doctor, and Joy's like, "Is this one of those hotels?" You know, like you think it's some sort of like role play hotel type thing. And obviously the scene with the interrupting the couple in the honeymoon suite.
Yeah. Oh, I love that scene though. That's funny.
Yeah.
Like it's such a classic kind of joke format, but the way that they say, "Oh, we need to go into the honeymoon suite," and then it's close up on the Doctor while he's talking to Anita, and then like the beat when they cut
and
back,
you know
that
it's going to be you know, they're going to show what's really happening. But,
that was funny.
Yeah.
So can I just check that I've understood the plot, because again it's Stephen Moffat and it's Christmas, and I just found it a bit confusing. But so essentially inside the briefcase is this starseed that is created by Vilengard, and they want to basically take it a long way back in time and let it turn into a star, so that they've got an energy source. So they've got an energy source for their like weapons or weapons factories or whatever. Is that right?
Yeah. And so I presume that they're trying to latch on to the Silurian manager guy is their main target, because he's got full access to all the rooms, so that they can. But then he's acting like it's going to then pass to Joy, and so is there one designated person? Because surely once it's on the Silurian, then they can take it to whatever room they need to take it to.
Yeah.
Yeah, but then obviously the Doctor's sort of concerned that it could explode, and it could, if it's left on Earth and not sent away or whatever, it could destroy the Earth and everything. But then if it destroys the Earth, then surely wouldn't it have a ripple effect on Villain? It was a bit. Maybe we're not fully like, you know, because we've not got the chart out and the you know, we're not sort of properly working out how it works. It's one of those sort of, you know, we've just got to trust Moffat and just pretend it's
in Moff we trust.
It's fine. Just have another glass of sherry and enjoy the bloody episode.
It's Doctor Who. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I when I was watching it and they got to the dinosaur scene and there was this whole, you know, star that was going to explode or whatever, I thought it was going to go down the route of that was going to be what wiped out the dinosaurs.
Yeah. But that's already been
explained in Doctor Who.
Yeah, in Classic Who. But again, they could, you know, they're probably not expecting many people to. In the words of Ben,
I don't think Classic Who's canon.
It's around that sort of time actually. So when they get the case back from they have to open up the shrine. I thought that sequence that's probably the most, apart from the, you know, dinosaur attacking them, the Shooty going onto the train and using the rope to, you know, attaching the rope to the train tracks and then being able to pull it off. That was one of my favourite scenes, just because of how it was so well done, and it's such a sort of, you know, you get Shooty's theme, Shooty sort of Doctor theme coming through, and I thought that was really well done.
I agree.
And it was also a nice way to tie in the Everest thing that's already, you know, the Everest setting that was established.
Exactly, yeah.
The Orient Express that had already been established.
Yeah.
And but it did. I mean, it didn't use the war one that had also been established.
No.
But apart from I thought that was really really fun.
I agree. It was good. Yeah.
Talking of the Everest one, something I did notice actually. You know, at the end when they go back to those settings and like the World War One, they're like, oh, there's still hope and all this sort of stuff. And the Everest climbers look up at the sky and say, oh, the weather has cleared and whatever. Did you get like a bit of a gay vibe from the two Everest climbers at the end?
Oh, I didn't actually, and that's unusual for me. I thought was it not supposed to be Edmund Hillary and Tenzing Norgay?
I don't know. I'm not sort of.
I think it was.
I'm not aware. Okay.
But maybe I'm wrong. But that was my immediate thing. I thought, oh, it's Edmund Hillary. But maybe there was something between them. Yeah. I don't know.
And I mean, there was also the bit in the start, in the war bit, where the guy says, "Oh, I knew some people over that way," and who? Woman? Oh, two women. And,
oh yeah.
I don't know. I don't really know what that was. Is that referring to specific people, or is that just meant to be like some sort of? Were they referencing some random lesbians, or what was going on there? I don't really know.
I took it as a typical Stephen Moffat. Oh, lesbians are a bit saucy and a bit funny joke.
Yeah. Again, tick that off the bingo card.
Exactly. Yeah. Or it might not be lesbians. It might just be the case of like, that man isn't happy with one woman. He's happy. He has to have two women.
Yeah.
Or whatever, you know.
Yeah.
But yeah.
That was.
I wonder what a Stephen Moffat episode. Well, an episode written by an AI. But that had been fed on all of Stephen Moffat's previous scripts. Yeah. What that would be like.
Yeah, that would be... Oh, yeah, that would be so funny. Yeah, there'd be time portals involved.
Yeah.
I don't know, I feel like it'd just be like a carry-on film. Like, it'd just be, it'd just be like, oh, I need to go into that time portal. Oh, saucy. It'd just be like...
I would love to see that.
It'd be like full of, like penny whistle sound, like... that sort of...
The flesh will rise. Oh, I bet it will.
Oh, stop it. Yeah. No, that'd be so funny. And then there'd be like, the Kenneth Williams type character or whatever will be like, I'm now working at Villengard,
Always did like a large weapon. Anywho.
I thought it was funny, by the way, this is totally changing the subject, and a lot of people have picked up on this. But obviously, the bit with Anita, that felt like a lovely thing. And again, as much as I love the Time Hotel thing, it does seem like what if the Doctor got abandoned, got stuck on Earth at Christmas, having to spend it with a random person, where seemingly there's no sort of funny sci-fi-ness going on. It's a character piece, whatever. But I thought that whole section was lovely. But then at the end, he's like, I don't usually live like this, one day after another in the right order. And yet Moffat himself has, he did that with The Power of Three, and there was the time where 13 was stuck in the prison, the space prison, and then obviously 14, that's literally his entire regeneration now, is just living with Donna or whatever day after day. It is, and also that was the time where Shooty cried he cries twice in this episode, and I don't at all begrudge anyone, I think it's good to see, especially like a male character crying and whatever, but it is starting to sort of lose its gut punch sort of effect when he's cried in basically every single episode in season 1, and then he's cried twice in this one. It's yeah,
and I do know.
I thought it was interesting when he then makes his way back to his past self in the hotel room, and he's sort of, saying, how do I get to you? And he said, the long way round. And obviously at first he's really annoyed with himself. And he's like, that's why nobody likes you and all this stuff. But then it turns out that future him is doing that it's almost like gifting him the time with Anita, like not wanting to not wanting to rob him of that year of Anita, which obviously his past self has got no idea about. But he's sort of like, you do it the long way around. I promise you'll love it, sort of thing. So.
Yeah, did you like the whole thing with where he gave himself the code because he remembered it and the bootstrap paradox? And then he answered it with, the universe, whatever he says. What does he say?
It basically came out of nowhere, but
so did the universe, and no one complains about that. Yeah.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah, I thought that was funny.
I did think that was good as an answer to that, because that is the sort of thing that people would complain about.
Yeah. Going back to when you said you thought that the star was then going to become the thing that wiped out the dinosaurs, I thought midway through the episode that because of them saying how far they had to go back, I assumed it was going to explode and be the Big Bang.
Oh,
and that's what was gonna. But I mean, obviously the actual final way that it panned out was more Christmassy. But yeah, I thought that because of the Doctor saying about it creating this big explosion and killing all, like, what if it was like right at the very start? But then I suppose how would the Time Hotel have, what door would it connect to? Yeah. I mean, also the other thing, going back to what you said also about it came out of nowhere, but so did the universe. Another sort of hand-wavy explanation of the fact that they can avoid that sort of paradox is, it's because I can't use the TARDIS to go back in time, but I can use these doors because they're physically connected to these different time periods. And then that just makes more questions than it answers. But because it's Christmas Day, you're not necessarily going to go, Mum, pause that a minute. So how does that work?
I can understand where they're coming from, because the TARDIS would have to actually travel, and so like when it travels, I feel like it rips through time in a way. Whereas
there's an activity involved in that, as opposed
and the portals are just there. There is one time sitting next to another time, and like you can walk from one to the other.
But then I suppose if you think of the TARDIS as travelling, because if you think of time itself as a space that you can move through because you move through the time vortex, isn't that just like a more fancy way of walking through one door and through another, because you're still travelling to connected time? I
suppose, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, this is the sort of stuff that, Moffat would probably say, "Oh, just eat your turkey and get on with it."
Yeah, exactly. I think there comes a point where you have to accept that time travel doesn't make any sense, and that's why it's science fiction.
Yeah, and I do wonder if Christmas episodes, they are the exception to the we'll let you get away with it 'cause it's Christmas sort of thing. It's like a sort of, I don't know, it's a bit like a end of term party or something where the lessons at school would slowly be phased out and it would turn into more fun stuff, and that's sort of like you could, that's fine, you didn't do your homework, whatever, just do it in the new year, it's Christmas. So it's like this, the details like, it's Christmas, whatever, who cares?
Yeah, I think there is an element of that.
Even though I am an animator, my wife, who's an illustrator, she's a lot more on top of the times where VFX is a bit janky. So, and again, thinking about, is this a Christmas episode, so can we let them get away with it? But I thought the VFX generally, stepping through the doors and all these different other types of things was great. But then the one thing that let it down was Joy at the end. There was a shot where she's standing on the edge of I don't know if it was like the edge of a cliff or just outside that cave, where it looked very like, she's in, I don't know, Studio B at Bad Wolf Studios, and she's on the green screen. And that did look a bit questionable.
Unfortunate. Yeah. I want to bring up something here, which is, so the little mini TARDISes that the Doctor supposedly ordered online, and he said, there just seems to be loads of them. Obviously, that's a little throwaway joke, but I want to go on my little pet theory about that there could be something to do with the God of Stories. And I'm wondering if this is like another little piece of that puzzle that, actually, like, Doctor Who fandom exists. And like, so that's why there's all these TARDISes that you can get on eBay and stuff. Like, I don't know. It's just me being fanciful.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny because they're just figurines of a police box, which
Yes.
obviously was a real thing.
Yes.
But if the TARDIS was never chosen to be a police box when Doctor Who was made, would there even be the opportunity to buy figurines, at least that many types of figurines
No.
of a police box?
Absolutely
because it would
not.
have just turned into obscurity.
Absolutely, yeah, I agree.
You can get the red phone boxes because they're a bit more iconic, and there's still a lot of them
They're
are still
still
around or
around,
have been turned into different things. But yeah, the police box would just, wouldn't have
Yeah.
stayed around. Yeah, that is quite a funny thing.
Yeah.
Again, though, it does feel like one of those things, like when people are theorising about the toy maker, and it's like, oh, it's the toy maker. Has the toy maker degenerated the Doctor into David Tennant as some sort of comment on nostalgia and not letting go of all these different things and wanting to all this? And no, it's just because he needed therapy or something. Like
Yeah.
it's very. I think we need to be sometimes remember that would be a brilliant theory, but it's whether is it that, or is it just, it's a funny joke about.
Yeah, exactly.
It doesn't mean anything because they weren't that clever.
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
I'm under no illusion it's probably not going to happen, but it's my little pet theory, and when I see something that feels like it could fit into it, I get a little bit excited. But yeah.
Yeah. Speaking of sort of theories like that, I have seen a couple of theories that this is the first Mrs. Flood theory that I'm not, I don't hate, which is that Anita is Mrs. Flood. Although she doesn't have direct experience with the TARDIS, he would have at least possibly explained what he does in that past year and explained what a TARDIS is and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
And her experience, if she now works at the Time Hotel, she'll be around time travel a lot and whatever. I mean, it doesn't explain anything to do with why she becomes Mary Poppins at the end of Empire of Death or whatever.
Yeah.
But,
my gut is saying that there's nothing to do with that, because apart from anything else, Mrs. Flood is a Russell T Davies overarching plan, and Joy to the World feels like a very much standalone thing that Moffat just did because Russell didn't have time to do a Christmas special, so he just let him have free reign and do what you want. So I don't feel like it could feed into anything, but I might be proven wrong. Yeah,
no, I do know what you mean. Speaking of sort of Moffat creating these characters and there being very much his property, I can't think of a specific other example of this, but I feel like we can add this to the Moffat bingo card, which is, well, I suppose River Song and Pond and Melody Pond River Song. But did you pick up on what... I don't think it was mentioned in the episode. I think it was only mentioned behind the scenes and stuff. Did you pick up on what Joy's surname was?
Oh, it means to the world, doesn't it?
Almondo.
Almondo, that's it. Yeah.
Almundo or something like that. And so her name literally means joy to the world.
Yeah.
And Shooty shouting that at the end in Bethlehem and stuff. That's a very sort of on the nose puns like that. Is very Stephen Moffat.
I quite like that sort of thing. Yeah, I quite like.
Yeah, I mean, not to. I don't know if you've got the jar handy, the J.K. Rowling jar, but for me to mention that she did that all the time, where she would, the names would. I mean, apart from the racially questionable names, she'd choose stuff from Greek literature or whatever that would basically give away the fate of that character. But if you knew enough about Greek or Roman literature or whatever.
Yeah. I always find it hilarious that they're so shocked that Remus Lupin turned out to be a werewolf. Like
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Here's a question for you. This is a bit of a random question, but when it comes to, there was obviously that quick cameo with Ruby.
Oh yeah.
Who do you think, she said she got a phone call and she said, "Oh, hi mum." Which mum do you think, who is that? Like, because maybe was that left ambiguous on purpose, or?
Oh, that's a good question. My immediate, I just assumed it was, what's her name? The one she
Carla?
found at the end. No, the one she found at the end of the series.
Oh, right, yeah. Yeah. Her biological mum.
Yeah, because is she not still living with Carla? I don't know. Was she living with her at the end of the series?
Well, I don't know. I think it was just that there was that shot, wasn't there, of Shooty dropping her off with the two mums watching as he dematerialises, and it's like, after that frankly unearned emotional goodbye of like, it's like, okay, yeah, goodbye or whatever, but I mean, yeah. I think you've sort of touched on bits and pieces or whatever, but I feel like you've done a very good job of saying what you liked about the episode. So I feel like you've earned... I'm saying this as if it's your podcast, you can do whatever you want, but as a sort of like, you know, mediating party or whatever, I feel like, you know, I'm able to say you are now in a position where I feel like it's fair for you to say what you hated about the episode, or what you whatever phrasing you would like to say.
I don't know about hate, but I did, like I have touched on bits and pieces that I wasn't keen on. I got a lot of that out of the way at the start, actually. But one thing I haven't mentioned is the scene of Joy's mum in the hospital bed and her saying goodbye via the iPad. My personal gut feeling is that I wish they hadn't had that scene in it. I wish we hadn't seen it. Like, it's fine that she told us about it, but I don't think we needed to see it. But I don't know if other people might have loved it and thought it was amazing and like really moving.
It is one of those things, thinking about it now, that like, I mean, at first I thought it was going to be some sort of thing where the Doctor was going to be able to take Joy in the TARDIS to actually say goodbye, properly. But then I do see what you mean, that like the thing with COVID and the pandemic and lockdown and stuff with Doctor Who is that A, it's very fresh in everyone's memories, but B, it was a very sort of raw time that, you know, that we don't have the Doctor in our universe. The COVID pandemic did kill a lot of people, exactly, and do so in a very tragic way. And I know that she did still die at the end of that episode. It's not that she was magically saved, but there's something about sort of, she did die, as far as we're aware, she did die on her own, and it wasn't this sort of magical, sparkly sort of gets absorbed by the star. And I feel like it should have remained, like you say, probably not even shown, but the fact that she did have that lovely, fantastical send-off is, it's not really, unfortunately, it's not sort of, it worked. Her rant about having to say goodbye to her mum via an iPad and not be with her at Christmas and all that sort of stuff. The reason it worked is because that is so true for a lot of people. Exactly. And there was no sonic screwdriver that could solve that.
Exactly. I really liked that bit where she ranted about that, and we heard her story, because obviously she stands in for so many people who went through the same thing. But then I just, like I said, I just felt that when they actually showed the scene at the end, it felt cringy, really, and especially the whole magical fairy dust thing.
Because surely it would have been possibly more meaningful for it to be that she does die. She did say goodbye to, Joy did say goodbye via the iPad, and that's obviously not very nice for her to have had to do that. And we saw that her mum was nearing the end of her life. But then it's like one last sort of thing. She just sees the star out of the window. It does seem like one of those things that, like, I don't know, a writer would do, and then someone would have picked up on that and go, you know what's even more meaningful is if she just sees the star and there's no sort of like, oh, by the way, everyone, that's Joy. So in the end, she was with her, let's connect the dots for you. It's more like we can sort of, connect the two together instead of it being this magical, fantastical thing, because that is still I imagine there were people that when they were on their own, nearing the end of their life because of the pandemic and stuff, all they had was looking out the window and seeing the stars and things like that. It's just that in this universe, it's that Joy was there because she was a star, and that's how it can be Doctor Who-y and fantastical and stuff.
That would have been nice. Thinking about it now, the ending with the magic fairy dust is very Disney, and I'm wondering again how much are Disney getting involved and saying, we want this changed and that changed.
I never thought of that, actually. Yeah, because it is very sort of, true love's kiss will bring
exactly.
Although, I mean, at the end of the day, she still died. But like I say, it's just, it takes away from the sort of, it does make it a bit too magical. And unfortunately, COVID was anything but magical for everyone. So, yeah, I mean, maybe it's that, if it was one of those sort of storylines where it was like, oh, my mum tried to call me my mum was ill in hospital, and she tried to call me, and I was busy. I was washing up or something, and I thought I'd ring her later, and then I never spoke to her again, and I regret that decision and all these sort of things. And there's something about the fact that instead it was COVID that was so, like, everyone experienced it, and it wasn't even that long ago, and so therefore is so, like I say, so raw.
I think, yes, I do think that's a big part of it, actually, that it is so too soon, like, it is so recent.
And especially
I don't feel it's had time to settle.
I mean, I saw a lot of people joking about the fact that, I can't remember the exact details, but I think that there's a scene in 13's era where she sends her companions back to 2020 as like a sort of gift, like it's a it's a lovely time. I can't remember exactly what she says or what the circumstances are, but then people obviously taking that as how mean of the Doctor, you know, because they're meant to have strong knowledge of everything that happens throughout the time periods. And, you know, so now that COVID is canon within the Whoniverse, it does change a lot of...
Yeah. I think the canon has to be flexible, and you have to just kind of ignore things like that, because, you know, even if you go back to episodes like The Hungry Earth, that is set in 2020, but obviously made 10 years prior. Point. Like, you know, there's no COVID in that. And there are things all the time where, you know, writers will make a decision to put something in that wasn't there before. And I think, you just have to accept that times move on. It's like when you know, the ones that were made in the 1960s, if they depicted, you know, what would the Earth of 2000 look like? And of course, all the new series is made post the year 2000, and it's nothing like what they thought it was going to look like. So, you know, that's the thing of making a time travel show, isn't it? Yeah.
Speaking of COVID and stuff, again, adding to the Moffat bingo card is his sort of middle finger to establishment and things like that, because he had that little Joy's anti-Tory rant when they were all partying and you know, she wasn't able to say goodbye to her mum and things like that. And yeah, I thought that was good.
Yeah, I did like that. Yeah, I think that was good to include, because Doctor Who is a left-wing show, and anyone who says otherwise is wrong.
Yeah, it's always hilarious when people say that Doctor Who's gone woke. And it's like, what do you mean, when? It's not like it used to be. You know, this Beatles haircut guy in a bow tie is meant to be the same person as this old man. You know, it's gone woke, you know. Did you notice that Joy's mum was staying at Royal Hope Hospital?
I did, yes. Yeah, Easter eggs galore.
I mean, that is another sort of funny, you know, you got such a devastating scene of the message ends. The iPad message ends. It's the last contact she ever has with her daughter just before she dies. And yet there's still like a little, oh, did you catch that? Yeah, Royal Hope Hospital.
Yeah, it's crazy.
And then I'm assuming, I don't know if did you see the clip from Unleashed from season 2? The sort of the brief clip where you see, is it Verada?
The new
actress.
companion. Yeah.
That's the actress's name, isn't it?
The actress is Varada Sethu, yeah.
And then Belinda. is the character's name.
Yeah.
But she I suppose works in a hospital.
Yeah.
And I'm wondering, is that Royal Hope Hospital as well? Is that sort of
Could be.
again going to be like a recurring thing?
I really don't want to get into this, because it's made me cringe a little bit that we seem to be following a pattern where we've had, obviously, you know, the blonde teenage girl
named after a shade of red.
And then we get the, you know, the slightly sort of more level-headed companion
who was in the previous season playing a different character.
Yeah.
Who now works at a hospital. Possibly I don't know if she's a doctor or a trainee doctor or something like that.
Yeah.
And then I've seen people suggesting that if Nicola Coughlan or Anita's character comes back as a full-time companion, then that's just another Catherine Tate situation. And I mean, it does seem like RTD and Moffat, but to a lesser extent, but also RTD, they've got like a dartboard, and they just what shall I do in the next season? And it's like bring back a companion from an enemy from Classic Who, some sort of convoluted storyline that doesn't go anywhere. I don't know, and it doesn't help when you know that. Obviously, with the Disney thing, they've tried to make it a reboot, like a soft reboot of calling it Season 1, Season 2. That doesn't help avoid the feeling that we're just doing it all over again.
Yeah.
You know,
Doing it all over again, but nowhere near as well.
Yeah.
The one thing that we haven't really talked about that I wanted to mention is the ending, the Bethlehem moment. What are your thoughts on that?
I thought it was clever. I thought it was funny, especially because of Moffat having a sort of... I know that it was somewhat retracted by the end of the episode, but in Boom, he says something... There's a line that Shooty says that's quite dismissive of religion.
Yeah.
But the main thing that I took away from it was that I'd always assumed that Christ would have been born in the year 0, like the sort of numbering system. But then it does make sense that the first year of our Lord or whatever, Anno Domini, would be year 1. So that's when I was like, wouldn't that have been his first birthday? You know, when it comes up with 0001.
Yeah.
But then it does make sense.
Yeah, no, there's no year 0. But I mean, if you want to go down that route, I find the idea of the historical Jesus quite fascinating. So there's the whole thing into what facts can we actually know about Jesus, as the historical person. And there's only about 2 things that you can actually know for a certain fact. I think it's his baptism and his crucifixion. Those are kind of set in stone. Those things happened. Everything else is up in the air. And especially the story of his birth that you get in the Bible, in my opinion, it's pretty much definite that was made up by people hundreds of years after he lived, just as a story. And I think most Christians would probably agree. And if you try,
isn't it that most, if not all, the evidence points towards him being born in the spring?
Yeah.
It was.
It wasn't at Christmas as well, because they only co-opted that there was a pagan festival,
Saturnalia.
Which they co-opted because it was already a thing, and it was it's a nice time to celebrate. So putting this thing in of Bethlehem at the end, it's a nice kind of nod. I think it's a nice wink and a thing of oh, how funny. But I don't think you have to take it as anything significant.
Yeah, because it's not like you then saw, then cut to
the baby.
Mary and Joseph.
Yeah,
looking up at the star and using it to guide its way into. It was just a little.
That would have been far too ridiculous.
It could have been the star. You take from it whatever you want.
Absolutely, and that's exactly what I think.
It being a Christmas episode, it does have that space to just be that sort of nudge and wink, like you were saying.
Literally, all you see at the end of the day, the Doctor looks and he thinks, cool. And then, the camera pans up and you see the town of Bethlehem with a star above it. There's 3 camels, but at the end of the day, it's just a town with a star over it. So, yeah, you can take from it what you will. If you want to believe what you want to believe, then go for it.
I mean, at least there wasn't sort of I don't know, a sign stuck in the ground behind Shooty that said we sell gold, frankincense and myrrh, for all your gold, frankincense and myrrh needs, come to, Wise Men Supplies or something like that. But then that's the funny thing is that, because obviously the Time Hotel connected to that time period because it was Christmas Christmas all year round sort of thing.
Yeah.
It connects, they're doing a special. But again, thinking about the fact that the historical first Christmas, probably wasn't in December, is it just that, they clearly know that, so they point it towards the birth of Christ rather than the same temporal, point every year sort of thing.
Oh, I see what you mean, yeah. Because the interpretation of it fully depends on what you believe and whether, how literally you want to take the Bible and things like that. I mean, personally, as an atheist, it doesn't bother me to see it as, like I said, the Nativity as a story that was written hundreds of years later. But if you're someone who believes that it literally happened as it said in the Bible, then you can also interpret the episode as factoring that in. But I think they left it vague enough that it's not going to be a problem either way.
And who knows? Maybe in the Who-niverse, it's that actually it did happen on the 25th of December.
Maybe.
If this is a universe that has Silurians and time hotels in the future and stuff, then because
of course the 10th Doctor said in Voyage of the Damned, he said he was at the first Christmas and he goes, I got the last room. So yeah. But then
and he's
I never know.
He says in this, no wonder there was no room at the inn.
Yeah.
Well, because you've got it. You know, can you not remember that?
Yeah. Although I'd sometimes when the Doctor says throw away things like that, I don't know if it's true or if he's just being funny.
Yeah, like there's quite a few. I think there's quite a few shooty ones where he says about a historical figure and referencing the possibility that they, had a fling or something.
Yeah.
And so you always got a sort of. It's a bit like have you ever seen Only Murders in the Building?
I haven't, no.
So there's a character in that who's like a sort of washed up theatre sort of producer, and he's the type of character that name drops all the time. He's like, this reminds me of when Whoopi Goldberg and I used to, I don't know, share a milkshake at the whatever, and it's always like everyone's like, yeah. It's a bit like Jay from The Inbetweeners. I don't know if you know that character. He's always like making up stuff.
Yeah.
I wonder with the Doctor again if it's like
100%, yeah. Okay, so
do we rate it? Are we allowed to do the new Ben rating system?
Yes. So out of 5 stars, what would you give this episode?
I think I'd give it. I think let's say a 3.5, but I suppose there's not really. It's only solid numbers in your sort of in Ben's little sound effects thing. So I'm going to go for a 3. I'm not going to bump it up to 4. I think 3. Yeah. So that's 3. What is that? Is that?
That's anywho.
Yeah.
Anywho, that's fair enough. I think now this is where it's unfortunate because I want to give it 2 stars out of 5, which I did. I didn't hate it, but I didn't love it. And I loved it less. Like it's less than midway. It's less than 3. So yeah, I am going to give it 2. So unfortunately, it's puke.
Puke.
Yeah, it is funny. I do like your new rating system, but it is funny how it does seem like 2 stars, and with the sound effects, 2 stars seems almost just as negative as 1 star.
It does, yeah.
I think it's just Ben's delivery of the puke.
Yeah. It was hard to come up with quotes that fit each one, but absolutely not. Had to be the bottom one. It just made sense. So yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's that.
It was fun, but it's one of those things that I've watched it twice now, and it was lovely. But let's move on to season 2 and. Yeah. It's a lovely. If it was, I think it'd probably be lower score. I don't know if it would be a lower score for me, but it's the fact that it's a Christmas episode. I think I'm letting a lot go. Letting Moff off on a lot of things that I might not have done had it not been a Christmas episode. But yeah, I thought it was a very functional Christmas episode, and certainly like a good Christmas episode. I think comparative to the roster that we have so far. So.
True. I did put out on social media for listeners to let me know what they thought of the episode. Matasaurus says, cried twice, thought it was brilliant, fuck the Tories, which is a great summary of the episode, really. Owen says, light-hearted fun, a genuine good time. C-Fam says, I thought it was a bit corny, but it made my kids smile, so worth it, which is nice.
That's nice, yeah. Corny is sort of Christmas Doctor Who all over, isn't it?
Well, it is, yeah. Aaron says, I loved it so much. Joy was cute, but honestly, I was just there for the whole part of the Doctor living a normal life in the hotel and the connection and friendship he made with Anita. Wholesome and just made me feel so emotional. I'm not religious, but I also really loved the ending, linking it back to Christmas. It'll defo be a Christmas episode that I rewatch, like the Christmas Invasion. The boys from Fast Return Pod, so Sean and Ethan, said, really enjoyed this episode. A roller coaster of emotions, the Anita subplot shone, as did the gut-wrenching way COVID affected the story's end. In part, it was also about the Doctor learning how to stay in one place again, this incarnation taking a breath after a whirlwind start. Beautifully written, directed, beautifully scored. Sometimes Christmas episodes feel like holiday fodder, but this one felt consequential, especially for the character of 15. We saw real growth of this incarnation, and has made me even more excited for what's to come. I think is actually a fair point, like, I was quite surprised to read that it was consequential, but I can understand there was good development for Shooty there.
Something that I thought that those messages made me wonder is how would you compare this to Shooty's first Christmas special, The Church on Ruby Road?
It's hard because I wasn't really a big fan of that one either. I think it's difficult because the first one was the first. It was like Shooty's first major episode. So that was exciting, and Ruby's first episode, and so it was exciting for that reason. But if you take that out of the equation, I think this one was better.
Yeah, I do see what you mean, because that scene where he's running and jumping on the rooftops to try and keep up with Ruby, and you hear his theme like properly played for the first time. There is something about that scene that I just was like, oh, I love 15 already. And then also I remember commenting at the time that seeing Shooty spinning around at a nightclub in his kilt made me feel a lot of like gender euphoria about as being a non-binary person and wanting to spin around in a skirt and dance around to that. That was really lovely. But yeah, I think I'd probably say they're probably on par. But I actually got the Church on Ruby Road novelisation paperback version for Christmas, so I'll be reading that soon. So I don't know if they'll make a Joy to the World one, but I think it would probably work really well as a novelisation. Like I think it would possibly make it improve on it.
Possibly, yeah. Nice. So, Will, thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you for having me. It's been lovely.
Yeah, not my favourite episode to discuss, but
it was fun, and it was, if anything, it just allowed us to have a fun chat, you know, so it's a good episode for just giving us that opportunity, I suppose. Yeah.
Well, I'm sure you'll be back at some point.
Thank you very much for having me on again.
But until then, listeners, stay cool, stay safe.
Stay fantastic.
Thank you.
We didn't even rehearse that, and I just thought, I'm picking up on that you probably want me to do that.